episode of Blerd Survival Guide. We have a guest with us today, and we're on video today. Look at us being different.
Hey,
Jay, how you doing?
I'm good, Jeremy. It was a good weekend. Great week. We've had a very productive week at the Blerd Survival Guide.
Company, yeah.
Without a doubt. So I'm feeling good. Sharon, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, guys. I'm super excited. I'm doing great. Super excited to be here. You guys are so fun.
Awesome. No, we're excited to have you, and we appreciate you for joining us today. Definitely for the conversation, the topic of conversation, which we are discussing. But we are going to be talking about Bruno because we're talking about Encanto and the movie that the new movie that came out that was in theaters for about 3 weeks, or no, about a week before it got hit on Disney Plus. But definitely, no, it's an Encanto type of day. It's definitely popular on the TikTok and the Facebook and everywhere. And that's actually why we asked you to come on the show today, is because we saw your post about Encanto and the truth behind it and everything that you and your family have gone through as a Colombian person as well. And anything to add, Jay?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, Sharon, but I've only seen Encanto on my TikTok, on my Facebook. It's all anybody's talking about. I think that
it's everywhere. Yeah,
it's exactly. And I mean, we wouldn't be doing our listeners we would be doing them a misservice if we didn't talk about it. And we're in the second half of our second season, and we actually set some new goals starting out like at the start of the new year. And one of those is to have like more people come on so that we can talk about like their experience, and especially as like we think that the term blurred is one of those terms that is all encompassing. It's across like it's really across races, in my opinion, because I think that it gives like representation to a broad amount of people, especially from the millennial generation. And
yes,
that's what Encanto does. Like it really does. Like it starts to tell a story. And so I guess our first question to you is like, what is this movie mean to you? And like, if you had to, you just start there. What does this movie mean to you? Because honestly, we're dying to hear about it.
Yeah. So again, thank you so much for having me here. A little backstory, I was actually born in Venezuela, which is on borderline with Colombia. They're both sister countries. And but half of my family, my mom's side of the family, is from Colombia. And all those cultural things like the food and the music and the way of, like talking and saying certain things reminded me a lot of my childhood in my grandmother's house and my abuela's house. And so to me, Encanto just not only make me remember my family and where I come from and where my family comes from, but it also, this is going to sound cheesy, but how important family is, right? And so, because sometimes we get so caught on like job and our lives as adults, I guess, that we tend to forget that connection. Yeah. And so one crazy thing is that you don't necessarily see that much in Latin American countries. Their families stay connected throughout, really, really strong. But with work and with craziness and how crazy the United States is, you see that separation here. And so it kind of made me miss my family, and it kind of made me want to like, I think I've talked to my mom today like 4 times. And I've been doing that ever since I watched the movie. And it's like, I mean, it kind of makes me feel bad because I'm like, I'm not talking to my mom enough. But no, yeah, the movie talks about family and the importance of family, and also the importance of breaking generational trauma that we go through, and especially Latin families. And I can see that reflected in my own family.
Has your abuela ever apologized to you, though?
No, never. She does not apologize. No abuela ever apologizes. And I was surprised when abuela in Encanto said, "I'm sorry, I was holding on too tight." I was like, it's coming.
It was the healing we all needed.
Like Disney's breaking all barriers, including abuela barriers.
I mean, they had to keep some realism with it being a movie about Colombia and things of that nature. But I mean, they also had to. It is still fantasy. It's Disney, so you know
I
you
swear,
have to have
I
the endings
swear.
on it.
The romanticizing that they did for that story. I can't say the
Listen, no, it's like, and actually, it's funny. In all the TikToks, like you mentioned, it's everywhere. That's another beautiful thing about it is that now people are more aware of Colombian culture. I have seen countless arepa recipes. They're wrong, by the way, but countless of arepa recipes on TikTok, and that's beautiful because we get some representation. And I say we, and a lot of people are going to be like, "Well, you're not really Colombian."
whatever.
Can I curse? Am I allowed to curse?
Yeah.
Bitch, I'm half Colombian, so whatever. It's just important to see the representation, and I think that's one of the beautiful things that they have brought is the fact that now more people know about arepas and buñuelos and like where Colombia is, and the coffee's not for kids, but somehow we still drink it. Listen, I identify with that kid so much.
Oh my God.
He had that cup
I
in
grew
his
up.
hand.
I grew up drinking coffee. Like I'm not lying to you. It was not every day,
Right.
but Sundays before we went to church, my mom would make coffee for the whole family, and I would have my own cup of coffee. And I was maybe 11, maybe less. And
Your
I
mom
had
had a strategy there. She knew what she was doing, man.
Y'all
y'all were staying awake for church.
Yep, pretty much. You're gonna listen to the Lord. And so that little kid and the twitch, and he's like, just tell us what everybody can do. And it's like, yep, that was me. That was little Sharon.
No.
And I'm pretty sure like that pure Colombian coffee is like some of the strongest coffee known to man. Like
that's the thing. It's like, one of the most nostalgic things. My grandpa passed away about 8 years ago. And I was unable to go to his funeral. We were here in the United States, and we were just it's complicated. Our green card, Venezuelan passports expired, so it was too much work to try to get the passport up to date so we can go. And we just couldn't go to his burial. One thing my grandfather did, every time we had everybody in the family, my grandmother's house, was he would make cafecito. And it was in tiny little cups, just like in the family madrigal song, La Familia Madrigal, where the house pours the coffee for them. Right. It was those tiny cups. And my grandfather would make a huge craft of Colombian coffee. He would literally just set all these little coffees everywhere. He would sugar them, and then he would come out to the front yard and just everybody gets a little cafecito. And so to see that, I was just like, my abuelo. And so the movie really touched hard and in several points in my life. And then I, for some reason, buñuelos for the first time, and they were delicious. Buñuelos are those little golden balls that the mom is feeding the people in the town. In the Familia Madrigal, where the guy has his hand broken and he eats one of them, and he's like, yeah. So those are buñuelos, and they're made out of yuca. Yuca is cassava flour, but they have cheese in them, and then they're deep fried. They're so good. So I made them the other day, and my husband is like, "You're making a lot of Encanto food," and I was like, "Well, I'm obsessed."
Oh, well, rightfully so.
We are either going to need that recipe, or we're just going to need you to bring it over so we can have a taste of Encanto.
Well, you know what's crazy in a way? Disney put out the recipe on Instagram.
Is it right?
And so if you go to the Disney's Instagram page, they have the buñuelo recipe in there.
Okay, now is it correct?
Yes, it's correct. It's really, and actually gives you alternatives if you can't find Colombian cheese.
Okay.
So it gives you a couple of alternatives. But yeah, it was delicious. It was amazing.
So like to see like you light up the way you are when you talk about this movie gets me really like excited and emotional, because I'm thinking about like how not even 4 years ago, how like Latinos and Hispanics were being so vilified. It's just been the most like undeserved like journey that like Latinos and Hispanics have had to go through over the last, really, for across American history, but like it specifically around the last 4 years. And, you know, we've seen these movies that Lin-Manuel Miranda has produced, you know, Vivo, Encanto,
In the Heights.
In the Heights.
Yeah.
I mean, just like these films that are transformative and give folks a voice and a place. And I guess all that to say is you've now seen this trend, you're starting to see this transition, and I think that can come with like a lot of different feelings. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and I think that so it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? You are excited because you get an exposure, but then there's always going to be that part of the human societies that will then hate on the fact that, well, oh, this movie is too Latino, there is no white people in it, and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, that's the point. But you get good exposure, and then you get the people who are just hating on it just to hate on it. It's taken everything in me not to do a couple of stitches on TikTok and just call a couple of people pendejos, because it's just crazy. But I think it's needed. I think that we are, as a community, we're going through a healing process, especially the last 4 years. You won't say his name, he doesn't deserve it to be named, but it's just after those years of being vilified and hated on, and seeing our kids being put in cages, and seeing our people being called drug addicts and criminals. Now we need this time to heal, right? And to be like, no, this is, our culture is much more than what person made us out to be. Now you have the media and the people who are in charge of literally all the information that goes into people's brains saying, yes, we have to have this exposure, because, you know, it's like we're more universes. We're more than tacos, and we're more than, like, it's so much more to our culture as an American community. Includes Latin North America, Central and South, all the way from Mexico to Patagonia. That, you know, it's not necessarily I saw a mess screen and it threw me off. But it's the things that I think the good exposure is needed for healing. I think that's what I was getting to.
Yeah.
Because it's sad to see what happened and we're being treated.
No, definitely. I mean, it's great to see on screen now, because 4 years ago, it's great to see the celebration of these cultures, of the Hispanic culture, the Colombian culture, Mexican, Latinx, Latina, all of it, just Ecuadorian, all of it together now. It's just so good to see on screen for those who are open to seeing it. It's just it's great to see that, because it's like you get to see. I know me personally, I get to see an entirely new culture that I've seen my entire life, but haven't actually gotten to know and gotten to experience what they experience. I mean, because we are Black, we have similar experiences, but I know, being someone of the South American culture or Ecuadorian, or like I said, of the Hispanic culture, you all have your own pressures that you have to deal with. And I do kind of want to get into the movie now. I know you enjoyed, like, it does affect you positively, but like with the actual movie, specifically, like, which characters did you like resonate with the most? Maybe some of your favorite parts of the movie. Where do you want to get in on that?
So definitely Luisa. She has a bop and her music is amazing. The fact that she has a reggaeton as a Disney character is just amazing. Daddy Yankee never could. But he couldn't do it with his gasolina, but Luisa did it with a drip, honey.
Drip. Oh my God.
So definitely Luisa. I think that out of all the characters, you see the pressure and the expectation that Abuela puts on her. What I love about the movie is that it's not sugarcoating what happens in Latina and Latinx families. You know, it's like, yes, it's magical realism, right? We're talking about actual historical moments in life with a little bit of sprinkle of magic, but it's important to tell the true story of how, and this is not to villainize Abuela because the movie has no villain, but how Abuela puts expectations on her family members. And something, and you guys told me about it, but it's something that I noticed. Abuela puts more pressure on Julieta's side of the family than she does Pepa's side of the family. And I think that it's because their gifts on Julieta's side of the family are a little bit more servant, if that makes sense, right? So Julieta cures, correct. Julieta cures the community. Luisa, the donkey's gone out again. Luisa, the donkey's gone out again. And so they're a little more helpful. And then you have Isabella, who is the one, the oldest. Therefore, she's the first one who needs to get married, the first one who needs to give us another miracle, the first one who needs to. But with Pepa's family, and I think Felix has something to do with that, the pressure is not as bad with Dolores and with Camilo. And poor Antonio, he just doesn't know what's going on. But it's just one of those things where it's just like there's more pressure on Mirabel's side of the family than there is on Pepa's side of the family, on Julieta's side of the family. And you see that throughout the movie. And even at the end, when she says, "We'll never be good enough for you. Nothing will do is going to be good enough for you." The only people who are standing there is her parents, Luisa and Isabella. And it's just like, we're never going to be enough for you.
Right.
And so, but I love Luisa. She has the right amount of like drip, but she has the right amount of like funny and truth to her. I think we all, as Latinx kids out there, will tell you that there has been some pressure to be the strong one, especially if you're like the oldest or the middle kid. Yeah. You always have to hold the family together. Yeah. You always have to make sure that, things don't get out, and make sure that you're, take care of your brother or your sister. Yep. And it's crazy. It's crazy because I've experienced that. So yeah, so she's my favorite.
I have a very close friend. I won't say her name because I don't want to reveal her whole story like that, but she's in Birmingham, and she's actually adopting her sibling so that she can start raising them. And they're actually their sibling is trans, and it's been a whole journey for them to really get to a place where they can be taken care of by my friend. And I want to talk to her about it, because I think that what you're talking about is, I know that she's been the rock for her family as the oldest person. And I'm glad that, I hope she listens to this episode, because I think that what we are seeing is, again, that representation that's needed and necessary. Yeah. And one thing I love that you talked about is the invisible villain, that's present within this movie, and that's a whole new.
Essentially, the villain was just high expectations. That's the
high thing.
It's what's inside of them, and it's that stress, and we millennials can identify with that. Ooh. Stress and depression and mental illness, and it's just one of those things where it's like, no, Abuela is not the villain. So please, everybody, stop calling Abuela the villain, because she's going to throw a chancla at you if you're not careful. And if you're not Latinx and you don't know what a chancla is, you'll know when it hits your head. Right. But and they can come from far away. They have good aim. Abuelas have a good aim. But she's not the villain. She's the victim of past trauma. So. It's when we talk about, in my post, I talk about la violencia, the violence in Colombia that happened between the 30s and the 60s, where the government was attacking the community rised up, there was some sort of opposition, but the opposition didn't have the back of the community. So their idea was, let's take over, let's do this. And so they started burning villages, they started killing people. It's something that my grandparents had to flee Colombia for. And it was all in the mountainous areas of Colombia mainly. And that's where guerrilla and the FARC and all these different groups, this terrorist groups, they're national terrorist groups, kind of build up back in the 80s and the 90s and became, organizations, if you want to call it. Right. But they displace all these people. They call it the Great Displacement, because that's what it was. Many Colombians moved to Ecuador, to Venezuela, to even Brazil. because they were trying to find better lives for themselves. So you have to get in her shoes. She is a woman who's alone with 3 kids, no home, and some sort of, black magic candle builds a house for her.
Right.
And so now she's like, I have a responsibility with these people that came with me from my own. Like, it's like, what are we going to do? And so you also have to think, you also have to think that in the movie, they don't tell you the time between when they were babies until they were, 5 or 6, whenever they received their powers. That's a big gap where Abuela has to figure out.
She's responsible.
Like I'm responsible for everything.
Like, I'm the leader. I'm the matriarch of this village.
Yeah.
She has to build it from the ground up.
Literally
and
from the ground
fighting
up.
everything to like maintain. Like, what gets me is the whole time you think that the gifts are like the literal manifestations of the powers within the children, but what she remembers is like the gift is life, and the gift is like the chance to continue to grow your family. And I think that when people watch this with their family, like I can only imagine like the amount of healing that could potentially be like.
I don't know. Conversations we'll definitely have after watching that movie. Like, no matter your race or ethnicity. Like,
yeah, family conversations happen, definitely. My father, to give you a little background, my father is a Baptist minister.
All right.
And I'm a drag queen. But he is a Baptist minister, and my mom grew up in the church. And so, and she was a deacon of her church, all that kind of stuff. They went to seminary. Like, they're full on Christians. And so, they watched it today. I gave them my Disney Plus password, and they watched it today. And I called her just to kind of get an idea, like, what do you think?
What did you think?
And she said, no, it was a little weird at first with the whole magic thing, because you think it's brujeria and stuff. And I was like,
yeah.
Mom, that wasn't brujeria. There was no bruja in there. There was no witch in there. But she was like, but it's beautiful. It talks about how important the family is. And I was like, what else? I said, I think it's important to think and to talk about the fact that trauma that family puts on. And I'm not saying you're putting trauma on me, but I'm saying the generational trauma that our family is. She's like, yeah, that's beautiful too. But I really like that song that Luisa, and she just derailed the whole conversation. I was like,
right around it.
To be Latino, mama, to be Latino.
She
one thing
in the only way that she can.
Correct. One thing that I wanted to add, I talked about this movie is based off of magical realism, which is a style of writing that was actually used a lot by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, who was a Colombian writer. And he wrote 100 Years of Solitude. If you guys have not read 100 Years of Solitude, I would recommend it. It's very convoluted and very difficult because it's literally 100 years of a generation of a family. And they go back and forth, and there's a lot of characters that have the same name. But it will literally explain so much about Encanto, or Encanto will make so much sense because it's a story of 100 people in one family through 100 years. And their need not need, but their experiences through solitude and through family trauma, historical damage, the US being involved in things. There's actually a character in there, not to get too, convoluted with the history, but in Colombia, there was a thing called Banana Republic. That's where the word Banana Republic came from. It's when they were actually doing the banana trades. And so they pretty much enslaved Colombian people because they were not paying them enough money. And so there was a character in 100 Years of Solitude that comes with the US Banana Company, and he's followed by yellow butterflies. But he is the reason how they break from that. And because the yellow butterfly represents hope and future. So when we see that into Encanto, what makes Mirabel look farther into the vision is she sees that butterfly, because that butterfly represents hope. And then the butterflies just kind of go around them. So they use a lot of that, 100 Years of Solitude's idea from it. And it's also a village that's in between the mountains that is in solitude that nobody can get to.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Look at Disney doing their research.
That's mad beautiful. And I mean, like, to have like it like verified, like for real, like sharing like the insight that you bring to this is so like vital, because I think that a lot of people aren't going to get this if they just watch it and, you know,
Yeah.
maybe put it back on the shelf. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
no,
Like,
it's
like, oh, it's a cute family story, but like the parallels between black folks and
Latinx,
in Latinx, like in the generational trauma
I would
that is.
also like to add
Yes, please.
the similarities between Mediterranean and Middle Eastern families in
Look,
the Latinx community.
families of people of color, we all go through some of the same. Like we are like parallel on bunches of things.
It's
but
wild,
sprigs
man.
of difference, and it's
Let me just tell you, there's so many words in Spanish that actually come from Middle Eastern words. Yeah, y'all probably need to talk about that, and I would love to come back for that. But there's a lot of words in Spanish that it's like, oh wait, this doesn't have a Latin root. This actually has an I don't want to say the wrong thing, Arab or like Middle Eastern. And so it's like, oh, wow. Okay. Well, look at that. So yeah, it's just one of those things where I think that every person of color can actually identify and just kind of see themselves in this story. Because I'm not trying to like throw darts at white people, but it's just like, trust me, if you didn't grow up as a person of color anywhere in the world, you had it easy. Because there's a lot. There's a lot, and that's a lot to say because I know a lot of white people have gone through, you know, like poverty and stuff like that in certain parts of the country or in certain parts. I'm not trying to minimize your struggle, but I want you to understand that there's a different level to when it comes to Latin, especially Latin American. I can only speak for the Latin American community, but from the Latin American community into you know, years of, you know, just horrible government and trauma and families and Christianity, and it's just it's a lot. It's a lot, and I'm glad that there is a children like wrap your mind around that, a kids movie made by Disney that talks about trauma in a very open way and in a very like amazing way, to be honest.
It's very direct, and you know, we kind of talked about it. Miriam and I were like talking about how like it builds very slowly, and then it's very quickly like to the resolution. Because I think and now thinking about it, it's kind of like a commentary on what is like just so necessary to like stop that very long down journey that could be very re-traumatizing. And then you get to the resolution and you're like, okay, so you're wise enough to understand like where we're coming from and what needs to be fixed.
So we just needed to talk about it.
Right, exactly.
Correct. Oh my God, how difficult was that, right? We just needed to talk about trauma.
The two people without powers just needed to sit down, have a conversation,
and be like, hey, by the way, you're like 70 and you're gonna die, and somebody needs to take care of the family, and I think it's me. So
we're literally the same. The house talks to both of us.
The only other person who can talk to the house and has actual like things with the house that doesn't have powers. Let me say that again. That doesn't have.
Let's just go to something even more simple. We're the only ones with butterflies on our outfits, Ma. Like. Can we not get a hint from? I mean, I guess the house makes the clothes too, but like, can we not get a hint to this? Like,
right here,
we are both the symbols of hope, and you're hating on me because I don't have a power. Come on, Abuela.
And I think, okay, so I also want to make this very clear. I think that the reason why it's so identifiable to different people, including people who are not Latinx, it's because a lot of the stories do have a little bit of a outcast. So if you've ever been an outcast, if you're in the LGBTQIA community, you feel represented. But can we please stop with the LGBTQization of the characters? Like, let's take them for what they are. Okay, I get it. Isabela might be a lesbian, and I love that because of the lesbian flag behind her. But it enraged me that now they're like, oh, Maribel is bisexual. Oh, Bruno is gay. Oh, it's like, it's not needed for the story. Correct. It's not needed for the story. The underline of being an outcast is there. The underline of trauma is there. They're making a TV show. Disney Plus is making a TV show for Encanto. So maybe we get a little bit more, you know, I work for Disney now. Spoiler alert. So yeah, they're making a TV show like they did with Rapunzel, like they did for Tangled. So it's gonna be the same style, not very outlined and not in like that 3D kind of look. It's gonna be more 2D.
More 2D.
So they
Like
will
animation
explain a
and
little bit more of the family. Maybe we'll get to see more kids, marriages, etc. But I just don't. I think that we need to take it at face value and be like, okay, so I get it. I understand what you're trying to tell me, but can we please stop sexualizing Camilo? He's only 15.
Right.
Can we please stop? Like, there's so much. It's so much that social media is doing that I'm like, just take it for what it is. It's a great movie.
No, for real, it can be overwhelming, and I think that that's like a good transition point for us because I think we're running near to the time before we get to our weekly blurb. So what you're gonna do now, guys, is you're gonna hear a word from our sponsor, Anchor, and we're gonna be right back.
Hey guys, it's Jeremy here to talk to you about Anchor, the free podcast tool that you all need. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, like I said, it's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your computer or your phone. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, and it's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So guys, go ahead and download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm on your computer to get started.
It's time for the weekly blurb.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. It's now time for the weekly blurb. Of course, we're going to have an extended weekly blurb with all of our guests and producers and of the like. And we're going to start off with Jay, since I went first.
Yeah,
got you.
okay, yeah. So y'all know this is a segment where we talk about or we highlight our favorite thing. We promote something. Whatever.
Nice little news segment. So something new, if it's something new in our lives, Sharon, if it's something new in your life, Miriam, if you have anything in your life that you want to tell us about, anything like that, and that's usually what we do for the weekly blurb. And like I said, Jay starting first, and go.
Well, you can kind of been paying attention to the Blerd Survival Guide Instagram. You might have seen several promotions that were going on where we were just talking about the different things that would have happened this week. But one of those things I was responsible for sharing, which was, if you don't know, The Weeknd came out with a new album, and that has me super stoked because I love this man's music. I love what he brings to the genre of hip hop and R&B, because his voice, in my opinion, is like is our generation's Michael Jackson. It just like fits in so well with this genre of music, and honestly, probably outside of it. Truthfully, I'd really love to see him get with Silk Sonic. And that funk with his like soul would be like super smooth. Like I think that would be fun. I mean, personally,
your little description just now reminded me of that episode of American Dad when he guest starred on it. And he like his whole song was like
he was in it.
Like he had this whole angelic presence about him during the whole song.
No. No,
please do it. Please do it.
No.
Come on. I want to hear it. I want to hear it.
I do not.
What you got?
I want to with the lights on.
I love your hesitation and just staring at him like, I want
to. No, but it's the new album's called Dawn FM. It's a really cool concept album. It's also got two really great features with Tyler, the Creator, and Lil Wayne. And a surprise feature from Jim Carrey, who's playing the radio host on the
DJ host.
Yeah, the promotion said it's a brand new sonic experience, which I just think is a great promotion for it. I've actually yet to complete my listen through, so that's kind of exciting for me as well. I've got like 2 more songs left on the album, but I think that this is a new Weeknd that we haven't really heard as much of, because he's really been doing like
it's definitely a post drugs Weekend post hard drugs.
I
Weekend.
think so, man. Like I've been worried about his well-being for a long time in his career. I was like, I really hope he doesn't overdose. That's been my.
I think his last album with the red suit and everything was like his detox from the hard drugs. And then this album is the I'm sober, quote unquote, from those hard drugs. And
I mean, he put a lot into the production in this album, and it really is a really great sonic experience. And I don't know. I just think that most of all, I'd really like to see it live. I think that would be like one of the dopest things ever. I've never seen a Weeknd show. Ryan has told me about them. He says that they're an experience. Like it's up there with like going to see a Drake concert for me. I think that it's just like one of those just on productions that would be really fun to see. And now because of this album, like really fun to hear. That's my weekly blurb. I hope y'all check it out if you're listening to.
I already did.
Because you're a smart person. Because you're a smart person. But I'm gonna popcorn it over to Miriam.
Hey.
Oh.
Surprise.
Surprise.
On this side of the floor.
The other side of the table, if you will.
Thank you. I'm excited to share. So it's nothing new. It's just something I found that I'm pretty sure I shared the TikTok with both of you guys, but it was really fascinating to me. So we all remember the classic 90s rom-com Bring It On. Yes.
Of course.
Remember this film?
Gabrielle Union.
So many
Kirsten Dunst.
iconic moments in this movie. It was one of my favorites, like as a child, because I have an older sister. So I was watching.
Oh,
Shitty musical. We won't even talk about that. We'll skirt that like we skirted Bruno on this episode.
potential there too.
Hey now.
But fun fact, Gabrielle Union did a TikTok where she was talking about how once they were in post-production for the movie, they tested it on some audiences, and the audiences really wanted to see more of the Clovers, which Gabrielle Union was like the head cheerleader for the Clovers.
You want to see more of the black cheerleaders
They wanted
people?
to see more of they wanted to see more of that that development, more character development for those girls. And so if you watch the trailers, the original like trailers from, I guess, I don't know what year.
I think 2000.
Yeah, I think it was
2000, 2001.
2001. There are like multiple random scenes that they shot just for the trailers, where there's like Gabrielle Union with a love interest and like the Clovers like going to another competition. But they shot those scenes just for the trailers, like post production, because it didn't do well with audiences, and so they thought to hook people in, they needed the trailer to focus a bit more.
Was it just in the trailer?
It was just in the trailer. Like
There's
those scenes that were in the trailer, it's almost like Marvel.
Yeah.
When they had those fake scenes in the trailer, like
Sure.
scenes that were shot in the movie during production.
Yeah.
But instead of it being shot during production, Gabrielle Union said they did this like post production. They finished recording the entire movie, but after
And
the
then they
test
just
screening,
shot these
That's
scenes.
shitty.
yeah,
Super shitty.
Yeah.
Just again,
Wow.
trying to profit off of
Black people.
black people, but not
Black
actually give them
bodies.
the representation.
not give them their flowers, baby.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
So-
Not at all.
I just thought that needed to be shared with our Blerd audiences because it pissed me off. And like Gabrielle Union's like laying up, like in her house, just like looking as gorgeous as ever. Being
Because
like,
she helps
yeah.
successful. Huh?
She's the best mom.
That too.
Her and D Wade, like I fully and like
That whole family.
That
It's
whole
wholesome.
family. I mean, it's
Wholesome AF.
it's breaking generational curses is what the hell it's doing.
Also bad.
as far as we know.
As far as I can, I mean, they have a
As far
trans
as we see,
kid.
as far as we see.
Yeah, but
But as far
as far as you can know. As far as
I can know.
Yeah.
Right.
But anyway, that's my weekly blurb.
Who you popcorning it too?
Oh, I'm gonna popcorn to Sharon.
All right, Sharon.
Hi guys.
Hey.
So, my blurb is my blood test came back. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh God!
Heard it here first, folks. Breaking news.
My doctor results came back today. No, so I don't have necessarily a blurb about something else, but about me. So I'm selfish like that. I'm just
Please.
I'm going with the character.
Come
I'm
on.
given. So you can actually start listening to my obnoxious voice on Spotify and Apple Music, and anywhere else you can get your podcast. Start in February. I'm doing a podcast called Look Who's Tuckin' with Sharon Cocx. If you don't know what tucking is, tune in to find out what tucking is.
Yeah.
So it's a podcast that talks about being in the middle and finding yourself in those intersections of many things, right? For me, it's being non-binary, being a drag queen, being gay, being pagan, coming from a Latinx community, being both Colombian and Venezuelan. And so I'm going to have an array of different guests. They're going to be talking about what their intersections are and how that applies into their lives. And yeah, it's gonna be funny, educational, and it's available on Spotify definitely as well, and Anchor as well. And yeah, it's called Look Who's Tuckin' with Sharon Cocx. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Plenty of Fish. I'm just kidding. But in all social media is under Sharon Cocx, and that is SharonCox. And you can kind of, catch up with me and figure out where I am and what I'm doing. I'm also retaking my YouTube. I keep saying that every time I'm somewhere and I'm being interviewed, and I never do it. But I promise 2022 is going to be the year for me to get my ducks in a row.
We appreciate it, Sharon. You heard it here first. Follow them on all the things, of course.
Look who's tucking.
Look who's tucking.
No. Look who's tucking.
Tucking.
I will tell you once we stop recording, I will tell you what tucking is. And
I've seen.
Do you have an idea?
I think I know.
I watched Try Guy video.
All right.
There's a Try Guy video that I've seen.
If my
of all four of them.
significant other doesn't know what tucking is.
Oh, I know. I know definitely.
I definitely know, but what I love is the meaning behind the name in your podcast. Yeah. Frankly, is because like.
Double entendre.
It's just like it really is like what
Sharon Cocx.
That's the private life, right? Like you got your private life.
Yeah.
What you tucking down there?
Absolutely. And sometimes tucking hurts. So sometimes your life
I
hurts.
just said private life.
Not your private parts or private life.
Jeremy.
I know what I said. I guess we'll round it off though with me and the end of our weekly blurb. This week. I do want to talk about the podcast. We're excited.
Promote us, man.
Right, promote us on the podcast. I'm promoting the podcast on the podcast. No, yes, but definitely, Blerd Survival Guide. I'm excited. Like Jay said, we had a fantastic week of things that we've been posting on Instagram and just everything across the entire Blerd Survival Guide media company. This week we finally got approved. We applied for it back in September, around that time. For Comic-Con, the anime
Alabama's biggest comic festival.
Yeah, biggest comic convention that's coming in February. And we applied to have a fan table, which is essentially just a table that we can have. It's provided for us, and we're going to share. Basically, we'll essentially just do a live podcast there. And we finally got approved for it last week, and I'm very happy to hear that. And I was happy to see that. I was to share it with the team, and we are excited that we are going to be going, and we're going to be there all 3 days to have friends and family come see us, actually be represented at a table with our business and our company. And as a whole, I'm just excited that we get to do that. And I mean, it's showing that we are growing as a company, and I'm happy that we're actually getting more and more recognized with people in Birmingham, and also just hopefully more and more people outside of Birmingham and outside of the state and outside of the country. Yeah, one Australian listener.
We do, and I mean, like, folks, the convention is February 11th through the 13th,
2022.
And so, like, we're just gonna be hanging out, getting to meet people, getting to interview folks, see what we can do.
I think we need to get tickets, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm fully planning on getting my ticket.
Yep.
Which will come very soon.
Yep. But yeah, no, like the convention as a whole, it's like we said, it's the biggest convention in Alabama. Special guests that have been there. Last year they had Jim Cummings, who was the voice of Winnie the Pooh. You had Rob Paulson, who's the voice of Wacko from Animaniacs. Multitude of anime characters and anime characters and voice actors that were there, as well as like one of the characters from Steven Universe. Huh? Yeah, Mick Foley was there. They're actually going to have a whole like wrestling tournament there this year.
It's a whole thing.
Yeah,
it's a whole thing.
Also, I don't know if you guys know this. I am a whale of useless information. But I don't know if you guys know this, but Winnie the Pooh is now public domain.
He is. I did see that. Yeah. It's essentially that Disney.
Anybody can have dibs until somebody buys it.
Until somebody buys it, literally the rights to Winnie the Pooh, anybody can use it. So we can actually see, like right now, we can
Disney
see.
could buy Winnie the Pooh.
They have to buy it back.
I can literally say this. Oh boy, this is great.
That you can, you can sing like "Here in the 100-acre wood" and not get in trouble.
And not get in trouble. Yeah. Until Disney buys it, because you know that they're going to buy it.
We need to take advantage of this moment.
But no, like, yeah. Well, we can't do Mickey.
No, that was bad. That was a bad impression.
That was a bad Winnie the Pooh. I don't know who you're trying to do.
But no, back to the table. It's exciting. We're going to be, like I said, we're going to have a live podcast there. Hopefully, have some live interviews with people who want to talk to us. I'm going to be in cosplay. I still got to figure out one or two of my cosplays because I'm going to definitely do my Loki outfit.
Yeah, you are.
But then I got to figure out the other one. But yeah, we're gonna see some of our friends there. Like I think Blerd Over is definitely going to be there. We got a couple of people who we shared on Instagram. They said they're going to be there and see us with it. So yeah, that's about where I want to end my time with that. Like I said, I'm excited for the table. I'm excited for Blerd Survival Guide as a business. I'm excited that everyone got to hear this episode with our new friend Sharon Cocx, and y'all can definitely follow them on all of the social media outlets. Where can they find you, Sharon?
Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I don't have good TikToks, but go follow me on TikTok. And it's all under at Sharon Cocx, COCX.
COCX. Spell it correctly. All right. And,
I'm not related to Laverne. I am not related to Laverne. It's just we're distant cousins.
Distant cousins.
There we go.
Yes.
But you can definitely follow Blerd Survival Guide on all of our social media outlets. On Facebook at Blerd Survival Guide. On Twitter and TikTok at Blerd Guide. On Instagram at Blerd Survival Guide, and YouTube now, Blerd Survival Guide as well. You can follow our personals at JaredBear3295
and at JDub0283. You can also find us on Redbubble. Get some merch, get you a sticker, get you a magnet, get you a t-shirt, a poster, everything that you could potentially ever want.
Ooh, I might get me a shirt.
Guide, merchandise.
Yeah, definitely get you a shirt.
I'm gonna get me a shirt, get in full drag, and come to Comic-Con. Just
oh my gosh, I have all the love to make that promotion because I really want to make that Blerd Survival Guide merge promotion with Sharon Cocx. That would be so cool. That would be the coolest thing ever. Oh my god,
let's do it. I'm down. Let's do it.
But thank you again, guys, for listening to the podcast. Remember, we don't talk about Bruno, and keep surviving, everybody. Listen to the theme song. Step into the spotlight, survival is troopers. Come and take a seat with the combo we provide. Every Tuesday, it's the Blerd Survival Guide. 2 guys, 2 mics, our producers. Step into the spotlight, survival is troopers. Come and take a seat with the combo we provide. Every Tuesday, it's the Blerd Survival Guide.